Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another How May I Serve You Today? Ask Me Anything live stream. Today is Tuesday, September 2nd, 2025. It is 12:54 p.m. We are live 6 minutes early today, and I'm delighted for the reason behind that, and that is that I usually open up the Zoom room and the live room over at cliffravenscraft.com/join, by the way, about 10 minutes early. And Greg Buckley is here today, and he's like, he popped right on in, and I'm like, let's just go ahead and go live. So we're going to go over to Greg right now. Greg, how can I be of service to you today?
Well, Cliff, I'll tell you what, man. It's been a while since I've been able to hook up and get to see you again. And um, I have a question concerning formats, and the reason is because I'm getting involved with like an internet radio station, trying to build out a platform that offers almost like live radio, but of course, internet radio is a little bit different. There's some different rules and regs, and I didn't know if it was a competitive format to typical podcasting, or if it was complementary to what you should have as an accessory or in your wheelhouse when you are podcasting. You know, you can take the shows recorded on internet radio and your software formats and stuff, and you can create a podcast with that. I just have been a big believer in radio, growing up with radio, the way that it can be live. You're listening instead of watching. I know that you know the YouTube phenomenon where everybody listens or watches their stream, but it gets me where are the facts and figures with YouTube, even though it's there and it's screen, there's a screen for you. Do you actually watch it or do you actually listen? The power of audio is really you pick up things quicker, you translate them, and you get to absorb them faster than through a visual. And I just felt that radio is a way to open up a channel similar to what we're doing here, but in a total audio format. So,
Oh, hold on one
I
second.
don't,
I have my
yeah,
daily issue with my Rodecaster Pro. 1 second.
again, that's what I use here. So I'm glad you're teaching me something. All right.
Let's see here. Give me 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
you're back. So continue on where you were just a
Mm-hmm.
moment ago.
Okay. Well, the thing is that I'm attracted to internet radio, and the
Yep.
reason being is because, like I said, it can be an isolated situation. You're not in the noise of social media when you're doing live. You listen more than you watch something. So why not produce a show that offers um, I guess what's the word for it? Uh, the true radio type of engagement from an audience, in a sense where you have a personality that's delivering the messages, that's playing the music, and I want to combine that to bring out, I guess, a niche within here, the state, and also the for my industry, which is automotive. So I'm looking for answers to say, okay, is it a valid situation? Is there something? Am I chasing you know a dream here that isn't going to work out? Where am I going?
All right. So let me just share with you what I read in your thing here as far as your original question that you posted in a comment
Mm-hmm.
from yesterday's live stream. I have to ask
Mm-hmm.
this: internet radio versus podcasting, competitive formats or complementary? So that was the question that you had posited into the comment. So is it
Yeah.
complementary or competition? Now, it sounds to me like your question or your situation that you want to get into is a little bit broader than just that one question. But shall we start off by forming what's going on in your mind as a question to me, and then we can get into the other questions that are also associated with what's going on. So one of the things
Okay.
is this valid? Is this dream something that I should be chasing or going after? Is this something that can be realized? Which question is most important for you? The competition versus collaborative, or what? Tell me.
I think it's the competition from a market standpoint. Where are we looking at, and what is the podcast world doing? I mean, is it peaking, or do we have internet radio that has the ability to be more fluid and change every day and grab a listener, like True Radio would. Every day you tune in at a specific time. You have live audience, you have streaming, you have versatility in your programming from talk to music to guests, all live happening right there. Whereas podcast being, static produced, it can be varied, of course, but traditionally it's a a static situation. It's well produced, it's honed. There's no live interaction between that show and you. The versatility of radio is what I enjoy the most, being on air, being live, that kind of a situation. So I'm looking at to invest into the radio format and yet still have the ability to create that podcast if I need to. I mean, I can record the show, put up a podcast, and go from there.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at where the market is going, I suppose, would be my biggest question from an investment standpoint of not only time, but resources as well. I've geared up with the same equipment that you have. We have the Rodecaster Pro 2. We have the mics. We got the Shure stuff going on. I mean, I'm not afraid to invest. I just want to make sure, is it the right area to go to?
Well, my first response to that is there is no such thing as the right area to go to. There's no wrong area to go to. There's just the area that you desire to go to and what feels most aligned for you. Now, you seem to have a thought in your mind that what feels most aligned to you will be determined by what you mean by where's the market going. So I could interpret that in a number of different ways, but tell me what you mean by where's the market going?
Well, I look at it like have we saturated the podcast market?
So the answer to
Meaning
that
that,
the answer to that question is no. You want to know how
okay,
I can say that emphatically?
yes,
All right. How many podcasts are there in any podcast directory that has Greg Buckley's perspective and perceptions of the world and ideas and thoughts that are sprinkled throughout that content? How many of those exist anywhere else in the world?
gotcha. Yeah,
And so
yeah.
it is not saturated with your voice. It is not saturated with your perspective or your perceptions of the
Mm-hmm.
world. You have so much to bring to the table. And even if, so for me, when I started podcasting, there was only a few hundred podcasters in existence in the
Yeah.
entire world. Today, there are millions of podcasts. But regardless of where the market is going, if I have a passion to launch a podcast, I'm going to launch a podcast and I will find my audience because my voice matters as it relates to whatever niche. And so there's a perfect example of this. I just recently entered the world of amateur radio. Last year I got licensed as a technician, then upgraded to general class. And there's a lot of podcasts that have been out there about amateur radio. There are lots of YouTube channels, and every one of those channels have a host of that content that has their own unique personality, their own ways of communicating about it. And so you might say that when I first got licensed in amateur radio, for me to think about creating content related to that, that's an already saturated field. But I didn't think about that. I simply went and purchased a domain called notesonradio.com, and I launched a podcast called Cliff's Notes on Amateur Radio. And I simply started hitting record and publishing episode after episode after episode of me sharing my thoughts, my experience, my background, my story, the things that I'm thinking about buying, the things that I'm perceiving when it comes to digital versus analog and local versus HF and all these other things, that I'm actually sharing my thoughts and the way that I communicate. There's not another YouTube channel or podcast or internet radio program that speaks about anything at the level for which I speak about it. And you know what? The way that I communicate, the way that I talk, some people really hate me. And some people really love me. And the same is true for all of the other content out there. Some people really love that. And then all of a sudden, some people like, oh my gosh, Cliff, I I didn't even know that the amateur world was missing something until I realized that all these years it's been missing you. It's been missing you. And I'm thrilled. I've tried just about every piece of content out there by all these other creators, but there's just something about the way that you talk about it that resonates with me.
So what you're saying is that it's as unique as your fingerprint, and that for each unique fingerprint, there is someone who appreciates that print
Yeah. And then the other
in
thought,
some way. But
absolutely. Well, exactly. You're going to have people who resonate with you and people who don't. And
mhm.
that's going to be everywhere. And one of the ways that I like to perceive this is I like to think about the fact that when we consider the idea, this concept of it's so saturated, in essence, what we're saying is there's so many people creating content about that topic. That's essentially what we're saying. And I
Mhm.
say that's a wonderful problem to have if we could label it as a problem, which I don't, because what it means is that there are so many people interested in this topic that obviously those people have been. And here's the other thing. Here's what I know. Let's just say back in the old days, you remember me from my podcast Answer Man days, correct?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So there are a number of people who had never heard of the term podcasting. They had no idea what podcasting was. And then all of a sudden, as a result of me going out and having conversations with people, talking at live events, I went to Michael Hyatt's event, and one day I talked about, the power and benefits of having a podcast to an audience of 200 people. And in the audience, 6 people had a podcast. And also in the same audience, about maybe 25% of the audience had ever even listened to a podcast. By the end of that talk, 100% of the people stood up when they said they will have a podcast within the next 90 days. So I introduced that entire audience, 70 what is that, 125 people, whatever. I introduced over 100 people into the world of podcasting, and of those people, many of them followed me every single week and all the things I had to share with it. They
Mhm.
resonated with the way that I communicated, the way that I shared, and they have been following me ever since, or they followed me for a very long time until I started talking about other things. So, however, what I'm very much aware of is that even though I was out there, making a name for myself and all this other stuff, there were about 3 other podcasters who podcasted about podcasting. All right. And I also know this is true. Some of those people in those audiences got really fired up. I introduced them to the world of podcasting. They listened to my podcast. And quite frankly, not everything I did or how I did it or how I said it resonated with them. They were very thankful that I was the person who introduced them to the world of podcasting. But then all of a sudden, it's like, oh my gosh, there are podcasts about podcasting. And they said, I wonder if there are other podcasts about podcasting. And then they might have found Daniel from the Audacity of Podcast or David from the School of Podcasting. And you know what? Some of those people ended up resonating more with them, listening to their content, and no longer listen to me. And
Yeah.
this is a
I mean,
beautiful thing.
yeah, I think one of the things that you brought out originally starting was the fact that you allowed your personality to come out, and you did a lot of things that resonated with, like you say, a lot of people. They gravitated towards you just because of you, your ventures into whether it was podcasting or, your health, whatever it was. You shared that openly. You were very transparent, and that definitely was a plus. And it was like you know, I could see how. Well, I mean, I was looking at it as well, but um, so the question I would have for you is, if podcast is your main gig, like, well, what made you jump over to radio, or to what you're getting into now, amateur
Oh,
radio?
amateur radio. So the amateur radio is
Hmm.
completely different. So uh, podcasting to me is more like broadcast radio,
Yeah. Okay.
and amateur radio is not broadcast radio. It is two-way. Matter of fact, it's illegal to broadcast on amateur
Yeah.
radio bands and frequencies. I'm only allowed to transmit for the purpose of two-way communication. So it's usually myself to one other or a small group of people. It's a transmission tool of transmitting and receiving messages back and forth. And also, there's a lot of guidance and guidelines on what can and cannot be said
Yeah.
on amateur radio.
Yeah.
But for me, amateur radio, why I got into amateur radio just as a hobby, because I love the idea of taking my voice, having it converted into electromagnetic signals, and to know that I can send it out at 1,500 watts off the ionosphere and reach people all over the globe. I just kind of like that. It's fun.
That's cool. No, I love communications. Trust me. I mean, it's something that I really agree with. I mean, to think about your voice, and like you just said, you can transmit it all over across the world on a certain frequency, as long as you have the tools and the equipment and the ability. And it's always fascinated me. So this is why I'm venturing into what I'm doing. I like the radio format. I like podcasting is good, but I just love the live activity with a radio show. And whether I go from podcast to radio or radio to podcast, you know, um, it's going to happen. So I got a few of them, and we've got a few shows that we get things together. One locally, one kind of like my buddy and I. We goof off, Smash Brothers. We golf. We have fun. We talk about the round, and all that. And the other one is for Soup Radio for automotive aftermarket. And then we had 302 Radio, which is state of Delaware. That's our only prefix for phone number. So 302 is the way we're going to go with it. And everyone can be done differently, but the same. I love to be able to play music. That's always been part of me. So these are the elements I want to bring out. I was just curious to see
So
where, and I say by market, just where things are going in the audio space.
yeah, well, so there are some things that come up, and you've mentioned music 2 times now. It's come up, so I do want to
Hmm.
speak into that.
Sure.
So first and foremost, let's just set music aside for a moment. Let's just pretend music
Hmm.
is not a part of your radio show, and it's just
Okay.
talk radio and it's content-based radio, but not music, especially licensed
Hmm.
music. So let's just set music aside. I would personally, and I'm not telling you what to believe, Greg, and how you feel about things, but this is Cliff Ravenscraft. I would consider it a massive waste of my time, effort, and energy
Hmm.
to create a live streamed radio program that entertained, educated, encouraged, and or inspired people, and then not take the recording of that and publish it as an episode of a podcast with the same name as the live radio show.
Hmm.
Because
Okay.
just the value of the podcast, one of the things that I love about podcasting is that I never come into a program midstream. So, for example, let's just say right now, you and I we're pretty deep into this conversation, right? And would
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
agree that anything we say from this moment forward will be built upon the foundational understanding of what we've talked about prior to this?
Sure.
But then we're streaming to YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook
Hmm.
right now. Somebody is just now pulling us up on their feed, and they're joining
Right.
this conversation mid conversation. And if it's just a live radio show that you and I are doing, anything we talk about from this point forward misses the context of what was before. And so
Hmm.
there's a lot of, in my mind, drawbacks to that. Now, the thing is that those people may have not been searching for our podcast, but because of the live radio format and where it shows up and how it shows up in different platforms, they came across this live show. They joined us right here, right now. It's like, wow, that sounded like a valuable conversation. I wonder if there's a way I could go back and listen to the whole thing. And that's where the podcast could be the archives of this content. The
Well,
other,
that's what. Mhm.
go ahead.
Well, I'm sorry. The format or the software I'm using does record the show, and so the only problem is that when you're streaming live music, you can do so, and I have all the licenses, the EMI, the ASCAP. I'm legally and safe, but you can't use it on a podcast, meaning that it would have to be edited out that section
That
or
is
those
exactly so.
songs.
That
Yeah.
is exactly the point. So if there was no
Hmm.
licensed music, you would not need to do anything. You could just take the exact recording as it was and drop that into a podcast feed. Now, with your ASCAP license, it does cover streaming. It does not cover podcasting. And so
Correct.
you like you said, you'd have to edit it. Now, one of the things
Hmm.
that we live in the world today is the world of AI. I don't have you ever heard of Suno.ai? SUNO.ai.
Yes.
It is amazing. There's not
I
a
know.
there is not a genre of music that exists in the world that it can't create. And you could actually go and say, I really love this song by Toto called Africa. And it's got this kind of beat, this kind of sound, and it's got these lyrics. I do not want to do anything to copyright them. But what I'd love to do is have something that has a similar vibe and a similar feel. And also, I'd like it to be about such and such topic. Can you create lyrics to a song? And I would do this with Claude or ChatGPT or one of the other large language models.
Mhm.
And I would create lyrics to a song, not to copy Africa, but inspired by, right? But with
Sure.
my own little things. And then I'd like to have similar style of instruments and a similar style. And you could actually create something. It's not going to sound just like Africa by Toto. And I hope that I'm actually associating the right band with the right song. But anyway, you get the idea.
You
But
are.
I will have something that's an approximation of the vibe of the music that I wanted for my show. And if you pay $96 a year for the pro model, that gives you the ability to create 200 songs per month that you are in full ownership of every
Yeah.
right. And so
It's crazy.
without having to pay ASCAP, BMI, or anybody, you could start dropping your own license, your own music in your own show, and also not have to edit it out of the podcast. And not only that, if you're the creative person behind it, you could actually use a program called Landr, Landr, and they
Hmm.
can distribute your songs as albums on Apple, Spotify, YouTube Music, and Amazon Music, and Pandora, and hundreds of other things. I have 2 albums out there already.
Do you really?
I
That's
do.
crazy.
Yeah.
I know Rick Beto did a nice little take on it on his YouTube channel regarding what AI is doing and the songs he came up with. They created the artist. That was a whole persona. They did the whole package, and you would have thought that this you could go down to your local store or download the whole thing. Well, you can, and you have this fictitious singer or band, and it sounded great.
Yeah.
So
I
you
pull this up here.
yeah,
Let me just pull this up. I'm using Apple Music for
okay,
Artists,
yeah.
and let me just go into Cliff Ravenscraft here, and I'm gonna go lifetime. So let's just look here. So my song, in the United States, I've had 750 streams, 123 in the United Kingdom, 21 in
Oh my gosh.
Poland, 18 in Romania, and 14 in South Africa. So people around the world are listening to my albums on Apple Music. Well, actually, that's Apple Music. That doesn't even include Spotify and all the other platforms.
That's unbelievable.
So
You
yeah,
know, that's
so just think
yeah,
about that.
okay.
Think about
Yeah.
that with your radio show. Would it be worth creating your own
Oh,
music?
sure. Yeah.
It could
Yes, it
it
would be.
could be even a potential stream of income for you.
Yeah. I can make a bunch of automotive mechanic songs.
There is
You
no
know?
doubt about it. There is no doubt about it. I
That would
you
be very interesting, you
it
know.
it is not as far fetched as you make it sound. You may be slightly joking, but I'm telling you that you'd want to get specialized in your niche.
Yeah,
This would be a way.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. That's very good. So, well, I'll tell you what, you've answered a heck of a lot. I really appreciate the conversation with you. I know this looks like we've had Chris hanging out
Yeah,
there for
Chris
a
is up
while.
next. So
You know,
we the
could I hang out, or is it just something where
absolutely.
you just okay?
Absolutely. So just
Uh,
put yourself on mute, and I'm going to bring Chris up next.
Yeah.
But
Hey, and Cliff, I really appreciated everything. Thank you so much, and I'm glad you're still out there making it happen. You know.
Absolutely, Greg, thank you for joining me. All right, so we're going to go next here with Chris. Let's pull Chris right up here. Chris, how can I be of service to you today?
Well, I've enjoyed taking good notes, Greg, from your conversation there.
Oh,
Cliff,
my pleasure. Glad to
what
help.
is the name of the music app again?
Suno.ai. Suno.ai.
I'm a huge music person as well. So when you said Out of Africa, Toto, 1982 is what came to my mind.
Yeah.
So you guys can Google that, but I'm pretty sure I put memories with or memories with years, time
Mm.
frames with music. So no, that resonated greatly with me. How can you help me today? I'm asking myself that question. So my wife and I have a mentoring nonprofit. We have mentored for many years. Did it just because that's what we did for years, and then 11 years ago we started this nonprofit called Fahrenheit Real Life Mentoring. And we lived overseas in Austria doing this, and saw such great results in another culture. So we're back in the U.S. for 7 years now, and we started a podcast 2.5 years ago. Should have started it much earlier. But in my own ignorance and fear and thinking, how would this work? And it was a lot less complicated than I would have imagined. And then what we also discovered, and you told Greg this. So, Greg, your question was, are there too many podcasts? I mean, is it going down the other direction? And Cliff, I love your answers because I didn't know how you were going to answer that. But uniqueness is really important. And so we really have a niche, I believe. We are gifted mentors. Our backgrounds are varied, that we relate to a lot of different people. We're both communication major backgrounds, and we talk for a living. And so, anyway, I enjoy my own podcast. When we did our first few episodes and then put them out there, and I thought, well, I better listen to these as well. If I don't enjoy them, why should anyone else? I really enjoy listening to our podcast. And people have told us it sounds like I'm sitting in the living room with you or around your dinner table and just having conversations. So, anyway, so we've taken this to a certain level, and I feel like we're on the side, no pun intended, Cliff. But before I got on the call with you, my wife and I were talking about, I feel like I'm on the edge of a cliff. Did not connect it with your name. And we're stepping into another level of effectiveness, of influence, of exposure. And it's exciting, and yet it's a little stressful because we are a nonprofit. We have to raise funds to do that. And then I have a man who is a marketing specialist who has greatly recently put together a marketing plan for us. And I'm very encouraged in that. And yet I feel this tension going, okay, where do I begin? What do I, what's my next step? So we do mentoring workshops for businesses, organizations, and churches, and that's a really strong niche for us. We're good at it, and one of our uniqueness aspects of our work is that when we say mentoring, many people will say, "What do you mean mentoring?" And business mentoring comes to mind for a lot of people. First of all, well, we address the whole person. And so we are spiritual, physical, mental, emotional, relational, professional, and/or educational. And so at some point, we want people to be able to step into each of those areas and mentor another person. So how can you help me today, Cliff? I'm not for sure how you can help me. It may be just some processing. I told my wife I don't have a clear question for Cliff, but I've heard you enough. You have a way of taking people into conversations. So that's where I am. We're on this cliff going, okay, we've got it's got to take some more risk, and I'm okay with that. But we've got to step into the next level to go take this even further. When I say further, I'm talking globally as well, because we lived overseas, and the world is very small in many ways to me.
Oh, so Chris, you mentioned you're standing at this edge, this cliff, if you
Hmm.
will. There's this next level that seems to be calling you forth. And I hear also that it's exciting on one end, but there's also a little bit of stress related to this idea of this stepping
Yes.
into the next level. And I heard the immediate association of, well, we have to raise funds for anything like that because we're a nonprofit. Let's toss everything that you've said over the cliff and just let it go.
I love it.
And for just a moment, I want you to just dream with me. You and I
Okay.
are going to pretend. We're going to play make believe. We're going to imagine that we're not grown adults here, but I want you to imagine um, I'm 5 years old and you're 6 years old, and we're playing in a sandbox and we're just making make believe, okay? Can you put yourself into that mindset?
Very much so.
Excellent. So, as two little kids playing in the sandbox, I want you to pretend we are 3 years into the future. It is September 2nd, 2028. Anything and everything your heart has ever desired about your business, your
Mhm.
organization, your mentoring, its size, its impact, its influence, anything and everything you could ever wish or hope for, including all of the income you've earned from all of your fundraising. I want you to pretend we are 3 years into the future, and I want you to tell me what life is like right now. It is now September 2nd, 2028. Pretend like the last 3 years, everything you've ever wanted has happened. No matter how crazy or outlandish or impossible it may have seemed, it just miraculously showed up. Now, tell me, what have you experienced over the last 3 years, Chris?
Let me add this into that. It's interesting. We are in front of people all the time speaking, either one on one, small groups, larger groups, and we do the podcast. This may sound strange, but we don't do this for attention for ourselves.
Doesn't
I
matter
know
why
some
we're
people,
doing this.
right, some people
So,
do it because they want attention. That's not why we do this. I say that because, so what I would desire in 3 years
nope,
is
nope,
that
no, 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 no.
no?
No, no, no. Hold on, hold on. You're still in the adult Chris.
Okay,
No, you're 6 year old Chris. This isn't what you
okay,
desire. This is what the last 3 years of my life have been like. This is what I have
okay,
experienced over the last 3 years. You
okay.
must speak to me from the position of September 2nd, 2028.
This is why I wanted to talk to you. Our podcasts are flourishing in
What?
numerous cultures. Not only that, but we have the Real Life Mentoring Podcast. That's what it's called. But we also have real life relationships. In fact, that one to me would maybe outshine the other one that we've
No,
started.
no, 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 no. Not would.
It has. It has. Sorry.
6 year old Chris, I do not want adult Chris. I want 6 year old Chris who's going to pretend what's happened over the last 3 years.
The Real Life Relationships podcast not only has already it's begun, it is thriving.
And overtook the other one I heard.
Yes, because people relate to relationships. Mentoring catches the ear for some, but relationships really catch it in the ear.
What else has happened over the last 3 years?
Our workshops have expanded, so we have to have our workshop has expanded, and we have numerous people trained to help lead these workshops that are leading them.
Trained facilitators. Okay. What else
And
has happened?
this is in business, this is in organizations and churches.
Excellent. What else has happened over the last 3 years?
We are now our podcast. When I was 6 years old, it was only an audio. Now we're doing video, and it's still offered audio, but our video has really taken off.
Nice. And what was it about the video format did you hear that really caused it to take off? Why did it take off over the last 3 years?
Because we are relatable, and people they were able to relate to our voices only, but they see us in person, and we become real people to them.
Okay. What about the fundraising for your nonprofit? How over the last 3 years, what's been the sources of the revenue that has come into your nonprofit?
We have been fortunate to have many new connections with foundations who care about
Name some foundations.
the John Templeton Foundation,
Excellent. Name another one.
the Jasco Giving Foundation,
Okay. And name another one.
the Coffee Foundation.
Name another one.
Oh, you're going to get me there. The Gaylord Foundation.
One more.
So many have come in, Cliff. I've forgotten their names in the last 3 years.
Let me ask you this. What is the largest contribution you've received into your nonprofit in the last 3 years?
The largest we received from an individual foundation is 250,000.
Excellent.
And that's actually that's over a 3-year period.
Over a 3-year period. Why did that organization give you $250,000?
Simply because we matched what they care about. It wasn't just on paper, but through interviews. They ultimately care about the holistic health of people as we do.
Excellent. And what was the first conversation with the person who approached you? What was the first conversation about?
Clarify for me what you mean.
Well, first of all, the $250,000, the person who first reached out to you from that organization, the one who's responsible for bringing that $250,000 contribution over the 3-year period of time, they first reached out to you and you had your first conversation. What was that like? What did you talk about?
We talked about my story. So initially, I reached out to them, received their information, submitted an application, very detailed, which is expected. And they wanted to hear beyond what's on paper. So I told them my story, my personal story, and my story of the journey of this nonprofit and how it has impacted people and currently is impacting people.
Knowing that was what prompted and facilitated that, how did that inform the way over the last 3 years, the way that you actually communicate your story and the story of your organization?
I quickly get personally involved in conversations, and I've learned, and I do it today, to step out of business mode into a real personal mode, which actually makes sense because we're about relationships. And so they get a glimpse of who we are as a nonprofit just in the conversation with me as one of the co-founders.
Excellent.
Does that make sense?
Yep, it does. And when you say today, we're talking 2028, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just wanted to confirm that. So your workshops have expanded. What were they like in 2025, and what are your workshops like today to actually describe them as expanded? What has expanded? What does expanded mean from
Okay.
2025 to 2028?
They were really quality workshops, not as many as we desire because we weren't known as much as we were
How
3
many were
years
you doing
ago.
on average? How many did you do in 2025?
Oh, I think six.
6. So now in 2028, you're doing how many on the books?
I think.
Not I think. I know for a
Okay.
fact as a 6-year-old in a
I know
sandbox
for a
making
fact
stuff up.
my wife and I have done 20 ourselves, and we also have another 12 that other people have done.
There you go. That is exactly what I was asking for. Excellent. So you went from you were doing 6 workshops in 2025, but now you and your wife together are hosting 20 workshops in 2028, and 12 other workshops are led by some of those other facilitators.
And Cliff, the reason in 2028 we're able to do that, do 20 ourselves, is because some of our duties have been passed off to other people that we can focus more on really our niche, and that's leading the workshops.
Excellent. And so the delegation to other people, is this people that you've brought in and hired in your organization?
Both. Some are volunteers, quality volunteers, and some have been hired.
What positions did you hire for?
Media consultant,
Okay.
project manager. Those two have helped greatly,
And
and
the
a fundraiser.
and a specific fundraiser
Yes.
consultant. Okay. Well, let's just pause here. We're going to step out of the sandbox. We're back in 2025. Thank you for
Okay.
playing with me in the sandbox. Do you now have clarity on exactly what you need to do moving forward?
Amazingly, much more than I thought.
So one of the things that you're definitely working towards is how can I take my workshops and bring trained facilitators to come on board and help also lead these workshops. That's something that you're going to go and do next.
Mm-hmm.
You're certainly going to be on the lookout for a media consultant that you can hire. You're going to be looking for a project manager who can manage many of your projects and free you up to do your zone of genius. And you're also going to look for a fundraising consultant that can help manage your fundraising so that,
Mm-hmm.
again, you can do the mentoring that is within the scope of what you most are called to do. The other thing that you're going to do is you're going to somewhere within the next couple of months or within the next year, you're going to bring a video element to your podcast. And also, it sounds to me like you're going to launch a podcast that is about real life relationships. And that podcast is eventually going to overtake in popularity and influence and impact your original podcast. Sounds like you got a pretty good, clear plan of what to go do next.
Yes, I agree. One of the challenges I deal with, there's so many hats I wear for a small nonprofit that I overwhelm myself some days.
You know what would solve that?
What?
A project manager.
And I have someone in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have someone in mind.
See, none of this stuff makes any sense. When we think about I feel called, I'm at this precipice, I'm at this next level, I feel something calling me to take this much bigger and all this other stuff. And there's a lot of stress that's involved with stepping out of the known and thinking that I have to do all this on my own with how I currently am. This is why I needed to take you out of your current circumstances. And the reason why I say I want to take you out of your adult mind and bring you into the mind of a 6-year-old, because I needed you to tap back into your unlimited imagination, that anything is possible. When we were 6 years old, anything was possible to us. But when we're up here, we have all sorts of limitations on what we will say. But you know what? $250,000 contributions, they're out there, and you're going to find them. It is a part of your, and the only thing that's keeping us sometimes from knowing the next steps is not having a clear picture of where I will be 3 to 5 years from now. Without vision, the people will perish. Without some kind of idea of my outcome, my destination, where I'm going, we don't have the courage to step boldly into that. And we don't have the clarity of what next steps to take. It's just, we just see from our current situation, it's like there's just infinite potential, but I don't know what step to take. I don't know there's an infinite number of options that I could take from here. But if we actually go a couple of years into the future and visualize, where do I want to be? It's kind of like, I live in northern Kentucky. And I used to go down to Franklin, Tennessee quite a bit to hang out with some folks down there. And, you know, if I didn't know that I wanted to go to Franklin, Tennessee, I just know I wanted to go somewhere and I wanted to hang out with some people. And I think there's a lot of potential for me to network and to collaborate with a bunch of really interesting people. And I just feel like there's so much opportunity out there. I'm just going to get in my car and I'm going to start driving. But am I going to drive to Florida? Am I driving to North Carolina? Am I driving down to Nashville? Where am I going? I don't know. Eventually I'm going to run out of fuel.
Yes.
Or eventually I'm going to run into traffic that diverts me and I get off but if I know where I'm going, the destination is set. And it's clear. It's like, okay, here's this way. So, well, obviously the quickest way from here to there is to go down 71, 75, get on to 71, go all the way down to Louisville, get on to 65 and go down. This is from this knowing that I'm going to Franklin, Tennessee. But then all of a sudden I'm starting to drive. And then all of a sudden I get a little note that says, hey, there's a major, major backup. There was a fire on the bridge, probably one of those types of things where the bridge is actually going to be shut down for like 6 months for repair kind of thing. And it's certainly going. So the nice thing about having a navigation system is like, okay, obviously I'm going to need to, instead of going down through Louisville, I'm going to take the Watterson Expressway instead. But then I'm not the only person who thought of that. There's all this stuff. And if I'm early enough, I can actually say, you know what? I'm not even going to take 71 at all. I'm going to go all the way down to Lexington, and then I'm going to take the Bluegrass Highway all the way over. And I'm going to bypass everybody, including all the people diverting around. But the fact is I will always have clarity about what my next step is when an obstacle stands in my way, if I know what my destination is.
Yes.
And that's all I did is I just took you to your destination without any limitation. And your destination is this. You've got, let's see here. Your podcast is flourishing in numerous countries. The Real Life Relationship podcast is actually thriving and overtaking the popularity and influence of the original podcast. The podcast is now actually video element as well, and that's really taking things to the next level. It's starting to appeal to a whole larger audience as a result of it. Your workshops have expanded from 6 to 20 for yourself and your wife, and then you've got 12 other workshops facilitated by others. You're actually consistently serving businesses, organizations, and churches. Let's see here. You're fundraising. You are now receiving significant income contributions from the John Templeton Foundation, the Jasco Foundation, the Coffee Foundation, the Gaylord Foundation. These people are routinely funding the work that you're doing in the world. That's your destination. Those are the people you should be in contact with over these next 3 years. Yeah.
Cliff,
Oh,
I'm back in the 28 for a moment.
yeah.
What I forgot to tell you is that Fahrenheit and mentoring are synonymous now. When someone has an interest in mentoring, Fahrenheit mentoring comes to mind.
Okay.
It comes to mind now. You might check out. I'm interested in learning how to be an effective mentor. You should check out Fahrenheit mentoring.
And that's your mentoring organization.
Yes, Fahrenheit real life mentoring.
Excellent.
So in 28, it's so synonymous with many people.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, Chris, I want to let you know that you can step into the sandbox and pretend anytime. That's right. Sometimes we sit too much in our current situation, our current circumstance, the way things currently are, and we perceive everything from here, and there's an infinite potential moving out there. And it feels like we're standing at the edge of a cliff, and it's stressful and scary.
3 words, literally, I went over them this morning and yesterday. Distraction can lead to discouragement and can lead to defeat. So, okay, I'm out of the sandbox and I'm like, huh. And this is distracting me, and it takes my energy as well. And then I get discouraged. And then if I stay in that, I can be defeated in some areas.
Yeah.
So recognizing those 3 aspects are important to me.
Yeah, and what happens is name the first one, distracted.
Distraction.
Let me explain to you why people get distracted. Because they do not have a laser focus, all of their
Mm-hmm.
attention, all of their energy directed towards a singular outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore, when you aim at nothing, you're distracted by everything. One of my favorite stories that immediately is just now coming to my mind is Nehemiah building the wall. You remember that story?
Oh, yeah.
And he says, I'm sorry, I can't come down. I'm doing a good work right now. I'm laser focused. It's a good thing he was focused and not distracted by those people who wanted his attention. Why? Do you remember why? They wanted to kill him.
Okay.
They were plotting to kill him. Literally, this is a story about how distractions can kill our intended purpose and vision.
Okay. Well, Cliff, where those 3 words came from me was in Mark chapter 14, where the woman pours the expensive perfume worth a year's wages over Jesus' head.
Okay.
There were people in the room going, "What are you doing? What's wrong with you?" She did not allow herself to get distracted, therefore discouraged or defeated based on what anyone in that room said. She knew her purpose. That's where that came from. So when you say Nehemiah, yeah, that's another example.
Yeah. So in that case, she knew her purpose. She knew
She did.
before she walked into that space, she had already prepared what she was going to do. Matter of fact, she knew before she left her own home that she was going to anoint Jesus's feet.
Yes.
She had the outcome predetermined, and that's why nobody stood in her way. That's why nobody was able to distract her. Nobody was able to defeat her.
Excellent. I want to thank you also. One thing you've done for me, you've mentored me well in these few minutes. And I've never done this with anyone, but I'm gonna take it on as not a tool, but an idea to take someone back to the sandbox.
Yeah.
You've done that well, and I want to thank you for that. But I want to incorporate that's a podcast episode in itself, Cliff.
I know. Matter of fact, going back to Greg before, here's the interesting thing. Greg and I, the conversation we had before this one, that's going to be an episode of the Cliff Ravenscraft Show all in its own. This conversation right here will be an episode of the Cliff Ravenscraft Show all of its own. And I have 34 of these already sitting on my hard drive waiting to be published as episodes of the Cliff Ravenscraft Show.
It's excellent.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, you
Yeah.
taught us a lot. I really appreciate the meeting and taking the time to hear Chris and myself. Very interesting. Chris, you've got a heck of a thing going on. I know what you mean by the barriers that you're facing. I have two locations that are 100 miles apart. I spent 7 years building a team that can take my place, and they're my son and my son-in-law. So we have a lot of family involved in our business. We're not perfect yet, but it's taken that much time. And now it's going to be their show while I branch off and do the things that, well, what Cliff is doing, what you're doing. And I can tell you that you do need to stay laser focused during this transition period so that you can start to see what you're going to do next, your next level. It's really important, and it's stressful. There's a lot of things you won't be able to answer right away. You have to stay calm, and but once you're there, it's amazing how much energy you start to feel back again, and then you start to basically start a whole nother. I say relate to a whole nother business. You have your energy back. You have that 6-year-old that now wants to get it. Hey, I got this new toy in the sandbox. I want to play. I want to play. I want to go. So it's a lot of fun, a lot of good energy, and be grateful for it and enjoy it. It's definitely a lot of fun.
Well, one thing I've learned, no one told me this, and I did not consider myself an entrepreneur for many years because I had a wrong definition of entrepreneurship. And once I realized that's how God's made me. I'm a self-starter. I'm a visionary. I see potential in this and this. Um, and that is really it's not welcomed sometimes with some people. But if I know that I know, I'm going to get there. But
Well,
along the journey, you get tired or worn down or frustrated. So this laser focus, I needed this conversation, guys.
that's
Well,
good. I always keep in mind two things. There's one by Milton Hershey. His business is the act of human service. That's my go-to quote. I keep that really in my heart because that's what I grew up with. As kind of like a servant's type of attitude. The other thing that I always profess is I wish to be that conduit, and that's where I want good to come to me. I want good to come from me. So that's why I try to work with all of my operations, my family, my team members, um, and that carries me in the times where I may question what I'm doing. Where's the next step? You ask for guidance, whether it's from your friends or from the divine, whatever. But you certainly start to feel your way through as you clear out one. You solve one issue, and that starts to peel away everything, and then you're traveling the next step and the next step. All of a sudden, you come into this bright room, and you're like, okay, let's go. So just be patient with it all.
yeah. Thank you both so much for
Mhm.
this. I see that Rocky has joined us. We're going to go over to Rocky next. But Chris, thank you for joining
Thank
me
you.
today. And I invite you back. And also, Greg, I invite you back as well. As frequently as you want
Sure,
to
love
come
to.
to these
Yeah,
Ask Me Anything sessions, I'm delighted to be of service to you.
Oh,
great. Well,
Cliff,
thank you, guys.
I've learned about you through a friend in Austria. Go figure.
You learned about me from
Yeah.
a friend in Austria.
Yeah.
Austria. Would that be Tom Hefner then?
No, Bjorn,
Oh, Bjorn.
B-J,
Yes.
Bjorn, yeah.
Yeah. Bjorn's been a
He was,
follower for many years.
so yeah, he told me about you.
Awesome. All right. Many blessings to you both. I'm going to go over to
Thanks.
Rocky
Yep.
next. Thank you so much. All right.
Thanks,
So,
guys. See you later.
absolutely. See ya. All right. Hold on one second. Rocky, how may I serve you today?
Cliff, it's awesome to see you. We always have wonderful conversations, so excited to get back. This common thing of like, what am I going to ask Cliff? It's like it's a conundrum of a question. But the one that's come up recently is how do you work with, let's call it, well, I don't know if balance is the right word of ego, but the back and forth between ego serves me well at times and ego hurts me well at times. And how do you learn to play that back and forth to say, ego, you're not serving me in this moment. Just be quiet. I got this covered and I think we're okay in this particular situation.
Yeah. I love that the scripture that comes to me as I think about it, it's be in the world, but not of it. And obviously, you and I have had some foundational conversations that allow us to go in. You and I can go straight into this dialogue with some understanding of what we mean by ego. And an ego could be defined by a lot of different people and a different areas of study in many different ways. But I'm just going to go here with you based upon our previous understanding. So for me, the idea of be in the world, but not of it. The first thing that comes to my mind, Rocky, as I hear that question is, for me, I had to come to the realization that I am not my ego. So that's the first thing. I am not the persona. I am not the collection of beliefs that I have. I'm not the collection of concepts that I hold about the world. I am not the collection of memories or experiences that I have had. Now, do I have beliefs? Do I have concepts? Do I have memories? And do I have experiences? Yes, those are all a part of this physical manifestation that is a real part of me in this physical material world. But the interesting thing that I learned is that I am aware of all of those things. I can sit in what you and I would both understand, and just tell me real quickly, the seat of the observer. You familiar with the term?
I am. And I think that's part of the struggle is sitting there and not getting drawn in so much. And that's
Well,
probably,
would you be willing to step out of your body and experience this conversation right here, right now, from the seat of the observer?
I can try.
You're already doing it. You're
Okay.
just not aware. This, by the way, this doesn't require any special meditation. It does not require that you sit in any certain posture, no breathing exercise. You can keep your eyes open. Just do me a favor. What are you observing right now? Just what do you see? What do you hear? What do you just let's start there. What are you seeing and what are you hearing? Tell me.
What I'm seeing is my screen in front of me. And I'm seeing you, Cliff. I'm seeing me. I'm seeing Chris. I'm seeing, the controls that are there. Everything else is kind of blocked off because distraction, right? So I just focused on that. I'm hearing your voice and questions. I'm hearing me respond back to you. There's some
Excellent.
small things around me, but very little.
Excellent. Are you wearing socks and shoes?
I'm wearing socks, no shoes.
No worries. Do you feel the texture of your socks on the skin of your feet?
I do.
Were you aware of it before I brought it up?
Probably not for most of the time.
Exactly. Exactly. And so what happens is our consciousness, our awareness gets fixated, hyper-focused, laser-focused, and our attention is drawn to certain things. So right now, what you and I both experience is we are consciousness. We are awareness. And that consciousness is so focused into our physical bodies right here, right now, and it is latched onto and focused on the processing that's happening in the brain within this physical manifested body. Yes? So
Yes.
therefore, all of the things that you are experiencing right now, you are experiencing as your persona, as your ego. You're perceiving it as what you believe to be Rocky. But are you aware that you're perceiving yourself as Rocky?
At times, yes.
In this
At times, I'm so caught up into it.
this very second, are you aware that you're perceiving this situation as Rocky?
Yes.
Exactly. So right now, you have to understand that Rocky is not you. Because Rocky is the subject of your observation. You cannot both be the observer and the thing observed. So what you just did is you sat and evaluated this scenario that you and I are right now from the seat of awareness. So let me explain to you how I do this in real terms, in day-to-day operation, day-to-day situations and circumstances. Let's just say I get into a car and I start operating in hypnotic rhythm. I'm on my way to go drive to, let's just say, to the gym or whatever. And then all of a sudden, somebody cuts me off unexpectedly. And not only that, but they do it in such a hurried way that you could tell, there's some assumptions that are made by my brain that I might have just been going a little too slow for them. And they were a lot upset about how slow I was. And so not only did they speed up right behind me, almost touching my tail, my back bumper, but just swerved just barely out of my way, honked their very loud horn, and then cut right in front of me, almost hitting my car, and then sped off down the road. And then I don't know about you, Rocky, but just if I'm not in the seat of awareness, if I'm actually stuck in my ego persona, I'm ticked. I've been violated. I've just been assaulted by this person. Right? And so this has never happened to Rocky, I'm sure. Never has Rocky ever had a instant emotional reaction to such stimuli. But I'm going to admit to you, when I am ego persona identified, meaning that all of my conscious awareness is focused right in here as my human experience. I am now associated. Cliff Ravenscraft is in charge. This is who I am. And I just got cut off on the road. Now, that's how I could experience that situation. And I'm going to tell you, these are what we call levels of consciousness. So let's call ego personified or ego identified or persona identified. Let's just call that a lower level of consciousness. And the seat of awareness is a higher level of consciousness. And if nothing else, that just imagine that from a higher seat of observance, we actually see things, we see the bigger picture. We see some of the things that Cliff can't see from his car. All right? So, in essence, what has happened here is Cliff has perceived I'm trying to reserve language here, a butthead who has demonstrated their jerkiness on the road. So I'm keeping my language PG completely. So this guy has cut him off, and all of the and I'm angry. And do you know what I do? And I'm like, I'm frustrated, and I might even say a couple words out loud, and some of them might be unpleasant. And so And eventually I calmed down, but man, did I actually experience a lot of stress? Yes. Did my body go into a little bit of fight and flight mode, or fight or flight mode for just a moment? High range beta brainwave states? Yes. And in that moment of time, did my brain release cortisol into my body? Yes. In that moment of time, did my body stop sending powerful blood and oxygen to very vital parts of my organs in my body that help keep my immune system going well? Yes. Did my body send all of my blood and oxygen to all of my extremities so that I could fight back against this injustice? Yes. All of this stuff happens when we are ego identified. Now, here's the situation. If I just go through my life just waking up in the morning and I think of myself as Cliff Ravenscraft all day, every day, everything is my preferences, everything is the things that I deem as right and wrong, everything is exactly, here are all the things that need to happen today for me and what I expect and what I desire. And anything that doesn't align with that makes me unhappy or causes some level of suffering. I'm just a reactionary. I've got all sorts of buttons anybody can push on Cliff Ravenscraft. Okay, so that's what I would experience if I was always personally, consciously identified as Cliff Ravenscraft. However, if I begin to understand that, wait a second, for just a second, every now and then I get a glimpse that I'm not actually Cliff Ravenscraft. Cliff Ravenscraft is something that whatever I am, whatever the I is, this awareness, I'm aware of Cliff Ravenscraft. I am aware of the thoughts that Cliff Ravenscraft is hearing. I'm aware of the words that Cliff Ravenscraft is saying. I'm aware of all of the data input coming in from all of Cliff's 5 sentences and beyond. I am aware of the actual way that that's being processed. I'm aware of the chemical I'm aware of how the blood feels in his body right now. I'm aware of his racing heart. I'm aware of all of this stuff. And every now and then I can be aware of that. And then if I actually can get myself to be in a place like that, Rocky, I can begin to experience the situation differently. And then all of a sudden, let's just say it's the same scenario on the road, driving to the gym. Same guy is behind me. He's been behind me for a little bit. And there's a car he couldn't pass. But all of a sudden now he gets his chance and he goes and does the whole thing, lays on the horn and whatever. And then in the previous, I would have said, if I'm ego identified, I would say, I am so angry right now. Or I actually would, let's just say I get to the gym and somebody says, hey, how's it going? Oh, you're not going to believe this jerk. He did this, he totally did these things. It was so wrong. And man, I am so angry. I was so angry. I was so enraged. However, if I'm in the seat of awareness, this might be what happened. It's like, I might actually still experience the ego identification. I might still have the reaction. But then all of a sudden, it's like, it will wake me out of my hypnotic rhythm. It's like, wow. I am aware that I've just had a reaction. I'm aware that Cliff Ravenscraft and his body is currently experiencing cortisol coursing through his bloodstream. He has currently got an elevated heart rate. He actually reacted in a way that is not in alignment with the way he desires to experience the world. And I'm aware of all of that. Now, who's the I? That's me sitting from the seat of awareness. So when I get to the gym, from a place of the seat of awareness, let's just say, Rocky, you're at the gym and I tell you about this experience. It's like, you know what? I was driving in my car. This situation happened. I had this involuntary automated reaction based upon the things here. And I observed that I had feelings of anger within my body. The sensation of anger arose within me and it became very evident. And I began to automatically respond or react to the situation based upon my conditioned beliefs about safety and what's right and what's wrong. But here's what I don't know, Rocky, is I don't know what was going on in that person's life. And I don't think I was violated at all. The guy didn't hit me. He clearly had some situational awareness in such that he felt pretty confident he wasn't going to hit my car. I don't think he intended to hit my car. And you know what? There's an infinite number of things that could be going on in his life. And you know what? Now that I think about it, gosh, there's been many times in my life where I have been sitting behind somebody when I wanted to get to somebody somewhere fast, and I perceived that they were just being the Sunday driver, if you will, and all this other stuff. And I've whipped around them, and sometimes I've honked my horn and maybe sent them a hand gesture that says hello with one finger up in the air. This has happened in my life before. I've been that guy, and I never really intended to hurt someone. And so all of a sudden I start experiencing this from a different place. I start to witness the programming. I start to witness the experience and the fact that I'm not much different. Cliff Ravenscraft is not much different than any other human on this planet. And we all have our ego identities. We all have our preferences. We all have our beliefs about what's right and wrong. All of the concepts. He has concepts. I have concepts. But ultimately, we're all pretty much the same. We all come from the same source. Some call God the Father. Some call the source energy of all that is, the universe. We are all one consciousness here in many different forms, in physical bodies, here having a human experience. And it just helps me to really understand that, you know, that person isn't against me. It's just another person who is living out their programming, just like Cliff Ravenscraft is living out his programming. But the interesting thing is that from this perspective, I recognize that the I that is speaking, that actually observes all of this, is not the ego. I am the I am presence. I am the higher self. I am the soul, the spirit that is inhabiting a human body. And so I can be in the world interacting with a motor vehicle and driving, or actually using all of the brain to cause my voice box to vibrate in ways that can speak words so that you hear on your end of this manifested world. So I am in the world, but I'm not of it. So sometimes I'm in the bodysuit and mask and persona and ego of Cliff Ravenscraft, but I am not of Cliff Ravenscraft. I existed before Cliff Ravenscraft existed. Did any of that resonate with you?
It did. The thought that comes up is, how do you step back in the moment? Because I catch myself sometimes I can catch myself like that. Mm-hmm. And there are other times where it'll go on for a while before I catch myself. I'm like, and that's kind of maybe really what the question is how do you stay more back or check in more often to be more back so that you're not just always in that focus
Tell me about
moment.
A hobby. Yeah, tell me about a hobby that you enjoy in this physical world. Tell me about a hobby that you enjoy, that you really enjoy.
What do I enjoy building things.
Just name a hobby, like building what sort of things?
Oh, things around the house. Like if we've got to remodel, I enjoy ripping something up and rebuilding it.
Excellent. And are you good at it?
Yeah.
All right. And with the next project that comes along, things need to be ripped up and redone and remodeled. You feel pretty confident that you will not only step up to the plate, do it, and do it well. Do you think that that's possible for you?
Absolutely.
Is it because you've actually practiced tearing things apart and remodeling over and over and over again? Have you not gotten better as you've went along?
I have.
So the answer to the question is practice. How often are you practicing? So some people say, I'm really great at playing the guitar or the piano. Well, and some people talk about I'm not talking about prodigies. I'm talking about somebody who had no clue how to play the piano, and today they are a master at the piano. How does that happen? It happens through lots of practice. Were they a master when they first started? No. Did they occasionally get a note right? Yes. But did they get more notes wrong? Yes. How did they get to become a master? They practiced. So for me, Rocky, I'm going to pull this up. Have you ever heard of the Insight Timer app?
I have heard of it, yes.
So this is what I use. I use the Insight Timer for my meditations. And today was my 1,287th consecutive day of meditation without missing. And that's over 3.5 years. I've not missed a day of meditation. And I will start off my morning with at least anywhere between 5 to 35 minutes of meditation minimum. So sometimes it might be as little as 5. It'll be on average somewhere about 30, 35 minutes. Sometimes longer, but it's not very often that it's longer. And then as a result of that, I start my day from the seat of awareness. I begin my day from the seat of awareness. And I'm aware that the in the world part of me, the ego persona, Cliff Ravenscraft, he happens to be married. He happens to have 3 kids. He happens to own a business. He happens to have income or expenses that he's committed to. He happens to have income goals. And so I, from the seat of awareness, become aware of what Cliff in the world desires to experience. And so I, as the awareness, am one with I, the ego, and we make plans. All right? We have ideas, but not from a place of attachment. So anything that Cliff perceives, he is limited in his perceptions. He doesn't see all the things that the higher self can see. So for me, as Cliff Ravenscraft being in the world, I do plan. I do have ideas. I have dreams. I have goals. I have desired outcomes. But I don't use any of them for me to experience peace, love, joy, and happiness at all. I experience peace, love, and joy and happiness because that's my true nature as soul/spirit. If I'm ever experiencing anything less than soul/spirit, it's because I am believing in that moment in time that I am separated from the source energy that is the higher part of who I am. So actually, I remind myself of that in the day. I set out my dreams. I set out my goals, my expectations, and I have intentions and I have expectations, but I'm not tied to any of them. I recognize there's still a lot that I, the ego side of me, am not aware of. Many of the things that I think would be great for me, somehow in an infinitely all-knowing way, God, the universe, the source energy, higher self, whatever, it knows beyond what I am able to perceive what is actually best for me. And so I actually, as the Cliff Ravenscraft ego, has this perception that says, nevertheless, not my will be done, but thy will be done. And so I will go with the flow of whatever happens, and whatever my desires are, I will simply surrender, let go, and trust in the natural flow of life that is perfection. So that's what allows me to stay in that seat of awareness when unexpected, undesired, and inconvenient situations show up. And when somebody comes and gets me all riled up. And by the way, nobody gets me all riled up. It's only my conditioned beliefs about how things ought to be and what should be and what's right and what's wrong and what I prefer and don't prefer and all these other concepts and beliefs that I have. Somebody else triggers one of those, and now all of a sudden my life conditions don't exactly match up to what I want, and I can get triggered. All right, but that's the me in the world part of me. But I instantly have trained myself through countless hours of meditation that once I experience that, I'm not going to go and react. I'd rather use that as a wake-up call. It's like, oh, dude, you are so attached to your programming that you just had a reaction. And so for now, you're at a place where, I can do that every now and then, but sometimes it can take days or weeks before I get become aware of what's going on. And when I first started my meditation practice, it was for me sometimes weeks before I would wake up from another ego-driven spree of hustle and grind and anger and rage and injustice and victim and abuser in this world. And then all of a sudden I would come to my realization of my true identity, and I'd come back to my homeostasis, my natural peace and joy. But when I began to meditate on a daily basis and I would start my day, I was getting triggered less. Not that I wasn't getting triggered, but I was getting triggered less. And as soon as I actually became aware of it, it's like, it's great that I'm starting my day with meditation. I think that right now I could probably benefit. So let's just say I have that situation on the way to the gym. It's been months since I've actually experienced the feelings or sensation of road rage. Now I've experienced it. It just got triggered. And then, one of the things I could do is before I go into the gym, I could sit in the car and I could meditate for 5 to 10 minutes. And I could remind myself that nothing is wrong. I'm not in danger. My world hasn't been turned upside down. That person didn't do anything about it. I have no idea what's going on in their world. And I could actually immediately extend forgiveness and grace for them and also to myself for allowing my body to react and respond in such a way. And I just allow that energy, the anger, to dissipate and dismantle itself. And eventually I got to the place, Rocky, where I found that bringing myself to the seat of awareness or a meditative state of peace and calm, where I'm in this world and in this body, but understanding that I'm not of it, I began to see and witness like, oh my gosh, I have the ability to feel good no matter what situation or circumstance happens in my life. And it's always a conscious choice of whether or not I suffer from the unmet expectations that I have, or if I choose to experience the bliss and peace that surpasses all understanding by being the one that's not tied to the well-being of this physical body and all of its ideas about what must be met in the world. There's a part of me that I found that can be at one with everything in the flow of life and not resist it. And when I began to understand that that's possible for me, I began to go to that place and I practiced that experience more and more and more. And so today I meditate somewhere between as little as 15 minutes in one day to as much as 2 or 3 hours in a single day, and in various different ways, not just sitting there and going om, but I'm talking about I am actually in a place of meditation right here with you in this conversation. You and I, for probably the last 7 or 8 minutes, I've gone in and out of being in the ego persona talking to Rocky and actually in the seat of awareness that Cliff Ravenscraft is here, sitting here having this conversation with Rocky. I can come in and out. I can be in fully identified here, and I can actually sit here and now speak about Cliff talking to you and recognize that I am not Cliff, but I'm actually speaking to you through what is perceived as Cliff. It's such a natural part, but it comes from practice. And I don't play musical instruments except for the musical instrument known as the body Cliff and mind Cliff Ravenscraft. This is my musical instrument. My ego is my musical instrument.
Thank you. It was helpful to hear it in that language, to see it, because I think sometimes I'm probably more in that state, but not realizing it. Maybe I'm expecting something bigger in a sense of that state versus what it actually is. And so I think it's helping to better name it or define it in that moment.
Yeah. When I began my meditation process, I began sitting in meditation, and then I heard people talk about all sorts of fun and wild things that you could experience. Is like maybe you're going to start seeing this tunnel of light, and you know, some manifested spirit is going to come down, and you're going to have this and all this other stuff, and you're going to be floating, you know, you're going to have this out of body, and you're going to be flying through the air and all this other stuff, and stuff like that. And when that was my desired outcome, it really never did anything for me. Now, I will say that I've had a handful of incredibly metaphysical experiences, but what I've come to recognize that's not necessarily my ultimate aim. When it was my aim, they were unaccessible. Those experiences were unaccessible to me. When I completely gave them up and forgot about them, sometimes they just happen naturally, and they are inexplainable with any words that are in any language in the human language in the human world. So I can't explain them. But what I can tell you is that is I started out this journey of meditation with people who are trying to explain this, and they're and what I've witnessed in the spiritual world is the number of people who are trying to consistently escape our human experience to have that spiritual experience all of the time. And it really helped me to understand, it's like, wait a second, there is something about being in the world, but not of it. And there's so many people that I see that they're just trying to be out of the world. And there's something powerful. The Tao Te Ching comes to mind. Have you read the Tao Te Ching?
I've read quotes from it, but I haven't sat down and studied it fully.
So I would not pressure you in any way, shape, or form, but I want to give you an invitation. Okay? I want to give you an invitation. Stephen Mitchell has a translation of the Tao Te Ching that is by far my favorite translation of the Tao. And I would highly encourage you, either on Kindle or any kind of paperback version, whatever you want, get a Stephen Mitchell translation of the Tao Te Ching. And then I would invite you to download the Insight Timer. I think it's $20 a year or something like that. It's a very inexpensive. Get the Plus membership. And if for no other reason, go in and do 1 year of subscription. And do you know how to go into are you an iPhone user, by the way?
I am.
Okay. So do you know how to go in once you've actually done a subscription for a year?
Cancel, yeah.
Go in and cancel it immediately. And it'll say, you've actually got a subscription. You've just canceled this, but you still have access to Plus membership until September of 2026. So go in, pay for a year, and cancel it immediately. That way it doesn't auto renew on you. But I promise you, it'll be worth let's just say $20. And I'm going right now to the Insight Timer, and I'm going to courses, and I am looking for, it is this course right here. It looks like this. It says the Tao Te Ching Mastery, 83 days. 83 days of ancient wisdom for spiritual enlightenment. And it's by Charles Freligh, Freligh, PhD. These are approximately 8 to 9 minute meditations every day. And so there's only 81 only 81 teachings of Lao Tzu in the Tao Te Ching. But there's day 1 of this course is him setting up what the course is about. Day 83 is just wrapping things up. But 82 through 8, lesson 2 through 82, he basically he reads the Tao for the day, that reflection, and then shares his own kind of in the moment interpretation of it. And he gives you an invitation into it. And at the beginning of this, he gives you like just maybe 15 or 30 seconds of silence for you just to experience the Tao. When you get into, like, let's just say it's day 47 or day 50 or something like that, he'll do the reading, and the entire rest of the 8 minutes is nothing but silence. And by that point, you will absolutely be in the flow with what the Tao is, the absolute force and flow of life. You will be one with it, and it will be an incredible experience. It is mind-blowingly awesome, Rocky.
I will check those out.
Awesome.
I'm still finishing the last book that you recommended.
What was the
It's
last
about
book that I recommended?
1,600 pages.
Oh,
It's Yogananda's, but it's the Gita. I finished Christ Within You, and now I'm on the second book of the Gita. I got about halfway through it, so I read every day,
yeah.
pretty much, and
And let me
it
share
takes a while.
Those were very much a part of my earliest journey of this particular path that you're aware that I've been on back in 2021, 22. And what I will share with you from where I sit now is Yogananda's teachings are they're incredibly valuable, incredibly valid, and it was so eye-opening to hear and read his interpretations of the teachings of Jesus through that. I have not read what is it called? It's called God Speaks to Arjuna, the Bhagavad Gita commentary. I have not yet read that one. And what's happened for me is over time, it's like, again, I even signed up. Do you see those journals right there?
Yes.
Okay. Do you see right below that little stack of white?
Yes.
Those are all of the Yogananda SRF Kriya Yoga lessons from Yogananda.
I'm through the first set. I'm now on that second additional set. I'm slow.
That's
in
fine.
other words, instead of the 2 weeks that they tell you, I'm on the 2-month plan.
You're not,
but I'm
you're
getting
not
through
slow.
it.
You're going exactly at your pace. So,
yes.
But the one thing I can share with you from my own personal experience with the Yogananda materials is it seemed to be putting me on a path where I am expected to transcend this world. And ultimately, where I've come is not that that's my desired outcome. I believe that will happen, and there's nothing that will stop that from happening. But for me, it's no longer my intended destination or goal. I am much more interested today, and I've learned that there's a reason why I, as consciousness, came to take form in this body and have adopted and created the persona and ego of Cliff Ravenscraft. And by golly, I am going to continue to evolve that persona, that ego, to be more aligned with the higher self-awareness. And as a result of that, I am here in this world playing in the drama because, God set the stage. He wrote the scripts. And by golly, I want to play best. I won a Tony Award or whatever. It's like, I'm actually here doing a good job. I'm having fun with this life.
Yes. I think I'm of the mind that, so what they talk about in there, it doesn't necessarily happen in one lifetime.
Exactly.
Right? Just the fact that you're even there means you've come this far, not just necessarily in this particular lifetime. So I know that they talk about the fact that it takes sometimes 1,000 years. I'm like, well, I guess I have time still then. The clock isn't so ticky. And that's the fast track number.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And
I'm okay with it.
Exactly. And that's exactly where I am. I'm like, for me, I came to this awareness that I am not this body. I'm not this brain. I'm not this collection of memories. I'm not this collection of beliefs. I have existed when all of that has ceased. I mean, I've literally had experiences where and we all do when we go to sleep at night. We go off into all sorts of other dimensions and things like that. But yeah, I'm in no hurry to get anything done, and when I'm in the seat of awareness, I recognize that this is good. This is a great place, and I have the ability to perceive it from God's perspective at all times, should I choose to do so.
Yeah, I think for me it's slowing down, the timing, and also you come into this with an expectation that doesn't necessarily match the reality. And so, like, that's where this conversation is okay. This is really what it is to look at it from an awareness standpoint. I'm like, oh, I do that a lot. Not every moment, but it's not weeks in between at this point.
Yeah.
It's much more consistent.
Occasionally a
And
day or two, maybe a few hours.
yeah.
And Rocky, give yourself credit. There's been a couple times when it only lasted for a few minutes before you actually came back into awareness.
Okay.
It's happened. And it will happen more frequently as you desire to, as you experience it. The thing is we will more naturally experience what it is that we habitually do. It's kind of like, I don't know about you, but I think it was, I used to be terrible about flossing my teeth many years ago. And all of a sudden, I was reading or listening to Michael Hyatt talk about, creating and forming habits and stuff like that. And he just happened to use flossing your teeth as an example. And this was probably 8-9 years ago. And so I applied what he said. And for the first 3 to 5 days, it was like I had to force myself to floss my teeth. It's like, and now I can't. It is impossible for me to brush my teeth and not floss my teeth. I can't not do it. It's just impossible. Matter of fact, it's so much so that in my wallet, I always carry 2 flossers with me. Flossing my teeth is it is a part of who I am. It's a part of the makeup of this. And that's what I'm saying is it's all practice. What are you habitually doing over and over again? Rocky,
No, and that's how. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say it's nice to be reminded of that. And I remember BJ Fogg talking about how to create habits, and he's like, no, don't floss all your teeth, just floss one. And if you do one, the next week you might do 2, and eventually you'll get to where you are today.
Exactly. And that's it. So if there's one final piece of advice, going to the original question, how does one keep from being ego identified? All right. Throughout the day thing. Do you want to know how it really first started, even before meditation?
Sure.
Daily power naps. Is not a joke. It is absolute. It's scientifically proven. Sometimes they say that if you woke up out of the bed and your experience is that, man, boy, I must have gotten out of the wrong side of the bed this morning. The best thing you can do, go get back in bed and start over. It was such a game changer for me. Even before I started all of the meditation and stuff like that, I just started taking naps in the middle of the day. And just letting and there's so much power in just letting the nervous system rest, letting the brain waves slow down.
And I do, I don't always do it midday, but either Yoga Nidra or NSDR, which is the same concept of slowing down and getting awareness versus the thinking part and getting out of your head and into your body, so to speak.
Yeah. Another question that's very helpful for me is in this place, and when we talk about being ego identified, sometimes we're talking about it's like, man, I'm really stuck in this emotional fixation within my body. And once I actually slow down and I use yoga nidra or any other form of meditation to slow things down, I become aware of my breath. I'm internally focused. My brain waves have slowed down. I then like to ask myself this question: what would I have to believe for me to think or feel that way? And then whatever comes up, and it will be either one thought or one emotion, or actually it will be one thought or a series of thoughts, aka and or beliefs, and just start writing those down. What would I actually have to believe for me to think, feel, or do that thing that I just did, or whatever? And then when you get the answer to that, write that down. And from the seat of awareness, evaluate the truth of that thought, that belief. And as you go through, you'll slowly dissolve the fixation of those things.
Mm.
What would I have to believe to think, feel, or do that?
I shall do that.
There's a book called Loving What Is by Byron Katie. And you are familiar with it?
When you said those words, I was like, oh, that sounds like Byron Katie's 4 questions. And is it true? Yeah.
Yeah. So once you have the belief, you ask, is it true? Can you absolutely know for certain that it's true? Who are you and how do you show up and how do you feel when you think about that belief? Can you see any good reason to hold on to that belief that does not cause stress? Those are powerful questions. And they are all questions that when you ask from the seat of awareness, it will help you dismantle a lot of the ticking time bombs or the landmines that are inside of our and before you know it, somebody will caught you off the road and you're not instantly laying on the horn. You're instantly like saying, dude, I hope you get to where you need to go. And I hope you get there safely. Because that belief that people should drive a certain way is not, it's no longer there.
Working on it little by little.
I know. And there's no rush.
It's that switch of the moment. I might react and then take a breath, and then I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Every reaction that we have is a form of enlightenment. It is to enlighten us to the programming, thoughts, and beliefs and concepts that we are holding that are resisting the flow of life. It's a gift. Every time somebody cuts you off and you react in that way, it's a gift. Rocky, I love it when you come and you have no idea what to ask. This is I appreciate your openness. I appreciate your conversation. I love just the slow building relationship you and I have formed over the years. I every single time I'm in front of you, I just love dialogue with you. I do.
And I always enjoy our conversations as well, and I look forward to them. That's why when I saw this pop up, I'm like, I have to go chat with Cliff, but I don't know what to ask him. I'll have to think about this for a bit.
There's always value to be had in two open minds who are willing to discuss whatever is going on in the world. So we'll never be at a loss for conversation.
Not at all.
All right.
I have to remember that.
Thank you for joining me, Rocky, and you're welcome back anytime.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right. Many blessings. right. So let me do that. And then, Chris, I noticed that you're still down there. I just wanted to say thank you for hanging out this entire time. It's been actually Chris has dropped off. Nope. Chris is still there. Hold on. I just wanted to pull Chris up here.
No,
Chris,
I've taken good notes, Rocky. So thank you for your questions.
oh,
Most welcome.
There you go. See, I love. By the way, I love the Zoom thing, and I love that people can come in and out and all this other stuff. But this is so much fun. By the way, if anybody's asking or wondering, I'm using Ecamm Live. Ecamm Live allows me to just effortlessly bring in Zoom participants. Like I'm literally just dragging and dropping your Zoom video window onto Ecamm, and you can see I could pull up like 12 people on a screen if I wanted to here. All right, I'm out of here. Thank you guys so much.
You guys.
Welcome anytime and many blessings.
See you all.
Bye.